Ramcharitmanas is an epic poem in the Awadhi dialect of Hindi, composed by the 16th-century Indian bhakti poet Goswami Tulsidas. Ramcharitmanas literally means "Lake of the Deeds of Rama." Ramcharitmanas is considered as one of the greatest works of Hindi literature. The work has variously been acclaimed as the living sum of Indian culture, the tallest tree in the magic garden of medieval Indian poetry, the greatest book of all devotional literature, and the best and most trustworthy guide to the popular living faith of the Indian people. Tulsidas was a great scholar of Sanskrit. However, he wanted the story of Rama to be accessible to the general masses and not just the Sanskrit-speaking elite. In order to make the story of Rama as accessible to the layman as to the scholar, Tulsidas chose to write in Awadhi, a local dialect of Hindi which was in vogue as the language of general parlance in large parts of North India during the composition of the work. Tradition has it that Tulsidas had to face a lot of criticism from the Sanskrit scholars of Varanasi for being a bhasha poet. However, Tulsidas remained steadfast in his resolve for simplifying the knowledge contained in the Vedas, the Upanishads and the Puranas to the common people. Subsequently, his work was accepted by all. Ramcharitmanas, for the first time in the history of North India, made available the story of Rama to the common man to sing, meditate and perform on. The writing of Ramcharitmanas also heralded many a cultural tradition, most significantly that of the tradition of Ram Leela, the dramatic enactment of the text. Ramcharitmanas is considered by many as a work belonging to the Saguna school of the Bhakti movement in Hindi literature. Background: Tulsidas began writing the Ramcharitmanas in Ayodhya in Vikram Samvat 1631. The exact date is stated within the poem as being the 9th day of the month of Chaitra, which is the birthday of Rama, Ramanavami. Ramcharitmanas was composed at Ayodhya, Varanasi and Chitrakoot. India was under the reign of Mughal Emperor Akbar during this period. This also makes Tulsidas a contemporary of William Shakespeare. The Ramcharitmanas is written in vernacular Awadhi language. The core of the work is considered by some to be a poetic retelling of the events of the Sanskrit epic Ramayana by Valmiki. The Valmiki Ramayana is centered on the narrative of Rama, the son of the family tree of King Raghu of the Sun dynasty. Rama was the crown prince of Ayodhya and is considered in Hindu tradition as one of the avatars of Vishnu. However, the Ramcharitmanas is by no means a word-to-word copy of the Valmiki Ramayana nor an abridged retelling of the latter. Ramcharitmanas has elements from many other Ramayanas written earlier in Sanskrit and other Indian dialects as well as stories from Puranas. Tulsidas himself never writes Ramcharitmanas as being a retelling of Valmiki Ramayana. He calls the epic Ramcharitmanas as the story of Rama was stored in the mind of Shiva before he narrated the same to his wife Parvati. Tulsidas claims to have received the story through his guru Naharidas. Tulsidas was a naive child and the story was stored in his mind for long before he read it down as Ramcharitmanas. Some understand this passage of the Ramcharitmanas to mean that Tulsidas at first could not grasp the story fully as he was a naive young boy. His guru graciously repeated it again and again so that he could understand and remember it. Then he narrated the story and named it Ramcharitmanas as Shiva himself called it. The epic poem is therefore also referred to as Tulsikrit Ramayana. The Ramcharitmanas is a masterpiece of vernacular literature. Some believe it to represent a challenge to the dominance of high-class Brahmanical Sanskrit, echoing the revolt of Buddha against Brahmanical elitism. However, this interpretation appears faulty as Tulsidas himself was a Brahmin and often talks very highly of the Brahmins in Ramcharitmanas and other books written by him. It was the attempt of Tulsidas Tulsidas to reconcile the different stories of Rama and to bring the story within the reaches of the common man. Structure. Ramcharitmanas consists of 7 khandas. Tulsidas compared the 7 khandas of the epic to 7 steps leading into the holy waters of Lake Manas Awadhi, which purifies the body and the soul at once. The first 2 parts, Balkhand and Awadhi, make up more than half of the work. The other parts are Aranyakand, Kiskindakand, Sundarkand, Lankakand, and Uttarakhand. The work is primarily composed in the Chaupai meter, separated by the Doha meter, with occasional Saratha and various Chund meters. Invocations at beginning of each episode. Every chapter of the Ramcharitmanas begins with an invocation, a Mangalakaran. It is customary of the Indian tradition of writing that the author begins a new book with invocation to the gods to ensure that the Sankalpa is finished unhindered. The first 3 or 4 verses of each khand are typically in the form of invocations. Balkhand begins with a hymn honoring the goddess Saraswati and the god Ganesha. The deity is related to knowledge, wisdom, speech and auspiciousness. Awadhi begins with the famous verse dedicated to the god Shiva. May he in whose lap shines forth the daughter of the mountain king, who carries the celestial stream on his head, on whose brow rests the crescent moon, whose throat holds poison and whose breast is support of a huge serpent, and who is adorned by the ashes on his body. May the chief of gods, the Lord of all, the destroyer of the universe, the omnipresent Eva, the moon-like Ankara, ever protect me. Aranyakand's first verse again extols Shiva. I reverence Bhagavan Ankara, the progeny of Brahma, the very root of the tree of piety, the beloved devotee of King Rama, the full moon that brings joy to the ocean of wisdom, the sun that opens the lotus of dispassion, the wind that disperses the clouds of ignorance, who dispels the thick darkness of sin and eradicates the threefold agony, and who wipes off all calumny and obloquy. Kiskindakand commences with the following verse. Lovely as a jasmine and a blue lotus, of surpassing strength, repositories of wisdom, endowed with natural grace, excellent bowmen, hymned by the Vedas, and lovers of the cow and Brahmanas, who appeared in the form of mortal men through their own mouths, the 2 noble signs of Raghu, the armors of true Dharma, friendly to all and journeying in quest for Sita, may they both grant us devotion. Sundarkand begins with a hymn in the praise of Rama. I adore the Lord of the universe, bearing the name of Rama, the chief of the Raghu's line and the crest jewel of kings, the mine of compassion, the dispeller of all sins, appearing in human form through his Maya, the greatest of all gods, knowable through Vedanta, constantly worshipped by Brahma, Hambu, and Esa, the one who bestows of supreme peace in the form of final beatitude, placid, eternal, beyond the ordinary means of cognition, sinless and all-pervading. Lankakand begins with this hymn. I adore Rama, the supreme deity, the object of worship even of Eva, the dispeller of the fear of rebirth, the lion to quell the mad elephant in the form of death, the master of yogas, attainable through immediate knowledge, the storehouse of good qualities, unconquerable, attributeless, immutable, beyond the realm of Maya, the lord of celestials, intent on killing the evildoers, the only protector of the Brahmanas, beautiful as a cloud laden with moisture, who has lotus-like eyes and appeared in the form of an earthly king. Uttarakhand begins with the following hymn. I unceasingly extol Rama, the praiseworthy lord of Janaki, the chief of Raghu's line, possessed of a form greenish-blue as the neck of a peacock and adorned with a print of the Brahmana's lotus foot, which testifies to his being the greatest of all gods, rich in splendor, clad in yellow robes, lotus-eyed, ever propitious, holding a bow and arrow in his hands, mounted on the aerial car named Puspaka, accompanied by a host of monkeys and waited upon by his own brother Laxmana. Kand endings. Tulsidas ends every chapter in a similar manner. Every Kand is formally concluded by Goswami Tulsidas. The following is an example of the ending of Kiskinda Kand. Iti Srimad Ramcharitmanas Sakala Kali Kalu Savidavam Sankata the Sopana Samapta. Translation. Thus ends the fourth descent into the Manasa lake of Sri Rama's exploits, that eradicates all the impurities of the Kali age. All the other Kandas are concluded in the same way, where the word Kata is substituted, according to the Kand being concluded.